Welcome back to our listeners. I don't know if you're like me, but sometimes you come across something on social media that just hits you. And then you realize, wait, the person that I'm listening to is really inspiring me. And so you sometimes you feel like you need to reach out to that person and thank them. I happen to listen to this video on social media and reach out to Suzy Patz and say, Suzy, you have to be on my podcast. So thank you, Suzy, for joining us today on Sprinkle with Hope. We are so excited to have this discussion with you.
Oh, thank you guys so much for having me and for reaching out. I love what you guys stand for too. You're equally, if not more, inspirational. So thank you.
So this video that I'm referencing, I saw it a few weeks ago on social media, and Suzy was there talking, and she says something like this. I had cancer, and I've had brain damage. I lost my job. I've moved 3 times, and sometimes I didn't want to move, but that doesn't stop me from being positive. And I love you all, and positivity is a choice. And I thought, whoa, that's when I decided Suzy has to be on our show, because what she was saying is what we talk a lot about, that we all go through life and have struggles and trials, and we can make up our mind to change that. So I don't know your full story, Suzy. If there's things that you want to share, those type of things that I mentioned, please feel free to give our listeners a little bit of background about who Suzy is and where you've come from and now where you are.
Yeah, thank you. That was a really great kind of synopsis of my journey right there. What I think is great, what I'm incredibly grateful for, is that all of those things, as challenging as they were, has brought me to that mindset now. That was part of why I know I'd asked you, what was your catalyst? What brought you to want to share all this positivity and all of this joy? And for you, that was just a natural. That was just something that you wanted to do. For me, it just took a kind of harder road. It was, I learned it wasn't, I guess it wasn't what I was taught. And so it was, in order to be able to get through the things that I was going through, get through the challenges, you learn you have choices. And I'm not gonna lie, I would vacillate between, being in that almost, why is this happening to me, victim mentality, and sitting in that and just being super sad. But then with that, realizing the power that I had with just a simple change of mindset to be able to create something very different. And so I am just really grateful for that now, that for everything that happens, life is never going to be perfect. Challenges that are going to come at each of us. And to be able to have that, even with the small challenging things, to look at it, be challenged by it, see what's there, but then be able to step back and be like, okay, how could I look at this differently? And the more you do it, the better and faster that you get at it. And it changes everything. It just changes your whole outlook on life and how people respond to you, how you respond to things.
Yeah, I love that you said that. And I think you hit it on the head where you said it's how you look at it, right? It's not that none of us are going to have adversity or difficult challenges or whatever, right? But it's how you look at it and that perspective that you look at it. So have you found like different ways to kind of cope with some of the things that you've done that kind of cause you to look at that thing differently and say, what am I supposed to learn from this and how is it going to help me?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I was actually thinking about this morning. That was a great question, because it's when you are, especially, I mean, I'm not going to guess ages. I'm in my 40s.
Where
am I?
Okay. right there with me. But when you have, and you're kind of starting over, and so you have 20, 30, 40 years of a certain mindset, it's not like that changes overnight. Just because one day you decide, okay, I'm going to think about something differently today. It's something that it took you 20, 30, 40 years to have the mindset that you have, that programming every day. You're kind of reprogramming yourself for how to look at life and how to look at situations. And so I will still have that thing where, my initial reaction may be something that I know doesn't actually serve me, and I step back and I change that. Things I do to actively keep in front of that, there's so many. I meditate twice a day, first thing in the morning before I go to bed at night. I read affirmations to myself. I also read passages from books that are inspiring to me, or whatever it is that I'm going through at that moment in my life helps me kind of get through it. I also journal every single morning, write down all of my thoughts before I start the day, and then get in 20 minutes of super light cardio, just because it elevates my mood and puts me in a better headspace. So I think for me, being able to have that every morning routine makes such a huge difference. And I'll notice that when life gets busy, I don't know if you guys have the same thing, and you kind of take detours and you're going, oh no, I don't need to do that today, or I can take the day off, and then it kind of snowballs and you don't do it a few days. It just completely affects everything. It affects your whole day. So I found those things to be incredibly important, and it has almost become something that I won't sacrifice for something else.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think doing those things every morning or night, whenever you choose, especially in the morning, it sets your tone for the day. And like you were kind of hinting towards, if you don't do that in one day, your day might not go as planned. You might have a little more struggle or something. But when you do those things like your affirmations or meditate, that it really grounds you and allows you to go about your day the way that you intend. So I really like that. So going back to this video that I saw, on your social media thing, it says that you're an advocate for love and hope. And I don't know how long you've been doing this, but what got you into doing this? Why are you motivated to share these messages with people and these videos and so forth? What's your why? Why do you do this?
It's a great question too. After brain damage, that was an incredibly hard recovery. I actually am now a different person than I was prior to. And that was the biggest struggle. There were so many other things that were hard for me, the physical things, but this controls everything we do. It controls every thought we make. And when after 40 plus years changes, you struggle with how to manage that. You struggle with what that means. You struggle with being that person, that's now a different person thinking about things differently. And it was tough. Recovery was tough. And although physically my doctors made sure that I was fine, there was no support for me here. And so I found that support through the people around me. And I felt incredibly lucky to be where I was, to have the people around me that understood the job that I was working at the time. Because I don't know if you're like me, where you get brain damage and you think, I'm not going to let this stop me. And so 3 weeks later, you go back to work and you're just like, you're trying to push through it, like walk it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just so you know, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So as I tried to do that, my brain is trying to tell me, you can't. I pretty much shut down. I got to the point where, again, this was off. The brain was off. And I was trying to find, what is the plan? How do I get back to normal? Trying to find the answer. And when I went into the doctor's office, I had an appointment about 3 months after the accident. I was living for this plan. I didn't know what to do. I wasn't myself. This was not normal. I would wake up different every single day. And I usually just kind of hid in my room. Couldn't interact with people, couldn't watch television, couldn't go grab a drink with somebody just to let it all go. And so I was really trying to figure out what's the plan. And when I went to this doctor's appointment, which was actually really hard for me to do, They didn't have a plan. Their response to me was simply, everybody is different. This is brain damage. You're only a few months in. You're just a baby. I'm ready for it to be over tomorrow. And they're telling me this could take a year, maybe longer. And they don't know. They don't know if I am going to get any better or if this is just going to be what my life is. And that was hard for me, and that was crushing for me. And this was after putting in all the time at work and trying to power through, and I lost it. And I don't know if you guys are okay with going here, but it's the middle of the day. I went home and I looked for my husband's gun under the mattress. And it wasn't there. He'd moved it. And I had called him on my drive home to tell him how the appointment had went, and hung up. And he understood just by talking to me that he needed to be there. So he actually left his job the minute we hung up the phone, drove home, and got there probably within like 15 to 20 minutes. And I'm so grateful for that, because part of it was like, with where my mind was at, my ability to process and go to what's next. So I go to look for the gun. That was my decision. I didn't know how to do what was next at that point. That my initial try failed, and it was just sitting there going, okay, what do I do now? And I was just ready to be done. I wasn't okay with being that person for the rest of my life. And this speaks to who you guys are, because he was, in that moment when he came home, he was my hope. He sat and talked me through it. And as much as I was trying to tell him how this is something that needs to happen, he sat there and listened, but let me know he didn't think that it was a good idea. So that was the kind of catalyst for me to go into work the next day and be like, hey, how I'm doing this isn't working. And sorry, this is a long way to get to this point, but I had a conversation with my boss the next day, sat down in his office, let him know what happened. And just that I just need to take time off. I don't know if that's going to be months. I don't know if that's going to be a year. Maybe this isn't the job for me anymore. He actually went to the owner of the company and talked to him. And the owner of the company says, no, she can take off as much time as she wants. If she can only come in one day a month, I'm okay with that. And we will continue to pay her full salary.
Wow.
I wanted to be able to bring that kind of support and love to everybody. I understood in that moment what I think a lot of people miss, how they lose hope, is they don't have that kind of support around them. And I just think that is so important. And so that's honestly why I started putting stuff out there. I found hope on LinkedIn. I found messages of positivity. And those helped me get through some of my hardest times. And I wanted to be that for other people.
That's awesome. Seriously.
You absolutely are that to other people, because it touched me when I saw your first video. I was instantly, I just felt a connection, not in a weird way, but just in a way that I thought, what you're doing is spreading positivity. And I felt that. I felt some of the pain and some of the things that you'd gone through, even if you weren't sharing the whole story. I felt all of that. And I think what you're doing is incredible. And so I really appreciate that you did open up a little bit. I didn't know that about you. So, we like to ask our guest questions, and whatever they want to share. I truly believe that every person has a story to tell. And so the more you open your mouth and share that story with others, the better the world is going to be. So from me to you, Suzy, I really appreciate what you're doing. And I know you're making a difference in the world. You made a difference in my life. So
thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it always feels good to know. And it's not, I guess, probably just like you guys, it's not why you do it.
Right.
You don't do it for the recognition, and you
No.
don't, but if it's that one person maybe that just makes a difference, that makes it all worth it.
Yeah, and that's Shane and I's vision. That's our vision statement. Is it's all about the one. It's all about that one individual that we can hopefully touch and help bring hope into their life and find it in, even the darkest of times, or even in the best times, right? That they still can find hope. And I think that's what Shane and I live by, is that kind of philosophy. So I've seen some of your videos, probably not the same one that Shane watched, but I did see one where you kind of ended where and you probably end a lot of your videos like this, but you say, I love you. Even if I don't know you, I can still love you. And so talk about that a little bit, and kind of, what your thoughts are on that. Cause I totally agree. I think that we can, send love and energy and positivity out into the world, even if we don't know who's on the other end listening to us. So maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
Oh, you bet. And it's interesting because I have the me before to compare myself to now. The me before was all walls.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us learn to put that up, but it's a protection mechanism. And the me after was just completely open. And in fact, I remember meeting with a friend afterwards, and we met for drinks, and I got there earlier, and she came in to talk to me, and she thought I had already been there and had a few drinks, but I hadn't. I was just a different person. I was just more open now. And I think that's what's happened, is that the fears come down a little bit. The walls have come down a little bit. And with that, I am able to honestly feel a connection and feel love for pretty much everybody. I think that when people talk about, look at kids, look how open they are, look how they're just living in the moment. I think that's the joy that they find. Like they don't have the walls up yet. They don't have the fear there yet. They love everybody that they meet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I kind of feel like, in a way, so the injury was 3 years ago, I kind of feel in some ways like I'm a 3-year-old. In that regard. I'm actively trying to keep the walls down, even though life happens.
Yeah.
And so that's where it is a genuine, honest love for each person that I meet. I don't know if yours is the same way, but I do. I feel that connection, regardless of who the person is and how long I've known them.
Yep. I agree. I think some people can honestly dislike someone that they don't really know, but so why can't we like somebody for the very same reason that we can just spread that love no matter who you are. We might not know you, but that doesn't mean we can't love you. That doesn't
Yes.
that. So
Oh, I love that.
so speaking about love,
Yeah.
you had mentioned to me that you have an app coming up. I don't know if you're still working on it or what. Let's talk about that. Talk about the app that you're working on.
The name of the app is actually Love Out Loud, and it comes from that same mission, and it comes from that same purpose, where wanting everybody to feel what it is that I felt. And at the time, there was so much going on, obviously before shutdown. And I don't know if you remember when this was happening. It felt like it was just kind of coming to this head, with where there were just a number of suicides.
Mm-hmm.
There are a number of school shootings. It was as if people didn't know how to connect with each other. People didn't know how to deal with all of this stuff that was going on. People didn't have that support that I was super fortunate to have. And so one of the ideas that I had out of that was being able to connect people and getting people to kind of think about each other differently. And so what the app does is it allows people to post whatever good that they've done in the day. It's a little like social media. You see everybody's post for what they've done. And it can be small. I think that we miss that just the smile at a neighbor can have such a huge impact.
Totally.
Yeah, feeding the dog for your mom, or saying you're awesome, telling somebody something, a compliment. And so everybody will post the good that they've done. And so that, first of all, brings their mind front and center with the good that they're doing, versus what a lot of us like to do, where we look at like all the things that didn't work throughout the day, or the challenges, the problems, and we kind of sit on those instead of thinking about, oh no, we're actually a good person. Look at all this good that I did. So in addition to be able to reflect on that, in addition to be able to be part of a community that is also posting the good, getting ideas for other things you can do, for every post somebody does, money is donated to a nonprofit of the user's choice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So actually right before us, I just had a call with Malala Fund. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them. No, the Malala Fund. Do you remember Malala was a girl that grew up in Pakistan, was a big advocate for education for girls.
Okay.
And at 15 years old, on a school bus, on her way to school, since she was so vocal about this, I forget who the bad guys were at the time, but they actually boarded the school bus asking where she was and shot her in the head.
Oh, wow.
Because that wasn't okay, that somebody was standing up for girls' rights. And she survived, and now she's a huge advocate for the education of girls. And so she's got this big fund. They are global now, and they're helping us beta test. So we just got off a call, kind of walking them through the app. It hasn't launched yet. We have tried a couple of times, and apparently this is normal. And there's just some security things. Since this is something that people can post whatever they want, there need to be some kind of restrictions on that. So we're working on that part. But that is my hope with this app, putting it out there. Yes, I think it's awesome that it's supporting nonprofits, the people that are already out there doing good. But my hope is what it does is it, by entering the good that you do and wanting to do more of that, it actually starts people to look at each other differently. So like Jason, if I was going to look at you and you're a stranger on the street, a lot of times, like I would look at you almost as an obstacle, like a person to walk around on the street, a person to get in line first at the grocery store in front of. But instead of, as we're almost gamifying good, right? Getting people to want to do this, that they'll look at you and they'll be like, oh, okay, I want to do good for this person, right? You're an opportunity to do something good. Maybe let you go in line in front of me, maybe say hi to you as they pass you on the street. So that's my big want from what's going on. That's what I hope happens.
That's awesome. Seriously, I love that. I love just the idea of it, because I think it goes back to what your core is now, which is, helping others to find light and love and positivity as they serve each other. And that's phenomenal. I mean, I always try to, open the door for somebody, which doesn't happen a lot anymore, it seems like, because now all the stores are automatic doors, right? And so it's hard to find those opportunities still, but I do try, when I go to the gym or wherever, I do try to hold the door open and stuff. So I love that idea that you're thinking about others as you're just going about kind of your normal day. And so I want to kind of go back to, you talked about affirmations, and maybe you could share, one or two of the affirmations that you kind of use in your morning routine, and kind of, and why you use those, and how they can maybe help somebody else. Because I love affirmations.
Me too. I actually, I won't call it cheating, but I kind of cheat. I have a book that somebody actually gifted me early last year, and it's all about the power of words and how we talk to ourselves. And at the end, it has, like, if there's different things that you're struggling with, it's literally like a page and a half of just affirmations that you can read. So when I read affirmations in the morning, it's literally like 8 pages of affirmations. And it is just so powerful, because I think that we in our day-to-day life don't realize how many negative things we say about ourselves. And so while 8 pages it does sound like a lot, I agree. But compared to like, as you're going throughout your day, if you're like, Suzy, that was terrible. Why'd you do that? Instead of looking at like, well, that was a reasonable mistake, Suzy. All right. We're going with that. Usually we tear ourselves down. One that I have, because, with my business and with what I'm building, this is all new to me. This is a completely new space. Since my mindset changed afterwards, the majority of the people that I knew before worked with who the old Suzy was. I've had to change who my friends are, who I connect with. And so there's no really person to guide me, if you will. There's nobody to look at and say, okay, what do I do next? Help me with this? I'm bridging new ground. So my recent affirmation, and maybe this helps somebody out there, I don't know, is I will and am capable of, I'm forgetting the words right now, building and running a effective and magnanimous, I'm butchering it now. I wrote it down like 10 times today, even though I did my journal, because of the meeting with Malala. I wanted to be in the right headspace, but business and company. But I wanted to be able to, I am capable of an effective, magnanimous running of this company and this business. Because again, not something that I've ever done before. I don't have a mentor. This is not something I'm living into that I'm following in somebody's footsteps. And so it's just constantly reminding myself that I can do this. And so I actually encourage anybody with whatever it is that they're going through, what words can you tell yourself in that moment that you need to hear? And it always kind of sounds silly usually at first. It really does. Because you don't believe it about yourself.
Yeah.
No.
And so to be able to do that, to be able to step back and say, maybe somebody wants to ride roller coasters. I don't know if you can do that right now, but just like, I am the best roller coaster rider there ever was. And if you keep, saying that to yourself, it sticks and you believe it, just like the bad stuff. So
yeah. I love that you're tying in the affirmation, but it's also tying into something that Jason and I have just recently talked about, which is identifying with what you want to be. In your case, it's a business owner of this thing that you're building. If you continue to say to your mind, I am this, you're going to identify as that thing, and that's what you're going to become. It's the same thing with our podcast. We would have never said years ago, oh, we're going to be podcasters, but we're identifying as that right now. And we're having the time of our lives, being able to talk to people like you, to share uplifting and inspiring messages, to allow people to see that everyone is living life and we go through tough things, but we can all overcome them because a lot of it is up in your mind. In your case, you had a very traumatic thing happen, but you become a new person. And I love that you're taking that new person and you're just sharing it with the world. I think that's really cool.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think you're right, because it does all come down to our belief of what we think is possible for ourselves. And it's so interesting because we can look at somebody else and so easily believe that they could do it. Like if I were to look at you guys, I'd be like, yeah, of course you can do a podcast. You guys would rock at that. But then in your mind, you're going, really? I don't know. Can we do this?
Right.
And why we do that, I don't know. Why it's so easy for us to believe somebody else could go do something amazing. And then for ourselves, we're like, well, I'm gonna stay down here.
Yeah.
But it's all belief. It's all what we believe for ourselves.
That's true.
Yeah. And I call it the I ams, what you tell yourself, what your I am is, right? Like I am, insert whatever you want. I am a podcaster. I am a motivational speaker. I am a business owner, right? When you identify with those I ams or those I ams you're telling yourself, that's what you're going to believe. And it goes back to, if you say, oh, I am dumb, right? Or I am, insert the bad word, the negative
Right.
word, that's what you're going to be, is you're going to be that. And if you continue to tell yourself that, well, then of course you're not going to grow and learn and think of yourself as a business owner, because you're telling yourself you're not.
Right.
And I think it goes back to, we've always had things to build rockets and do all this crazy stuff. We always had that stuff, but it took somebody to do it, right? It took Roger Bannister to say, I'm going to break the 4-minute mile, to actually do it. It took, whatever it is, because they said, I am going to do that. I am going to break that 4-minute mile. I am going to build a rocket.
Yeah. And I love that you said there too, because when we talk about the 4-minute mile, when that hadn't been something that had been done before, nobody believed it was possible. And then all of a sudden it just takes one person, right?
Yeah.
To show you that it is. And then you have that belief like, oh, well, I can do that, right? Whereas before you didn't believe you could. And so anything is possible. I genuinely believe that. We are going to be the only people that will ever stop us from actually being able to do anything. It's all on us. And it's all up here.
Totally agree with that.
Yeah.
So Suzy, Jason and I have come up with what we call the double down dose. You ready for this?
Let's do it.
So I have a question for you, then Jason will ask you a question. My question is simply this: how would you define hope?
I would define hope as, I think it's the little thing that is the will to action for anything, right? The hope that there is more, the hope that I can do something, impact someone, get through this day. It's just the will to action that compels us forward to be able to do anything in life. Because with the story I shared before, at that point, there was no hope. And so there was no will to action. And it felt like the only thing to do was to stop. Hope is incredibly important.
I 100% agree. And I love your definition of it. And really that is it, right? Like, just, we all need more hope. And, that's Shane and I's mission, is to spread as much hope as we possibly can, and love and positivity throughout the world. And so I'm 100% with you. So the second part of the double down dose is, what is your definition of love, or how would you define love?
Love for me is actually, I don't know how it's going to sound. It's what we're all made of. It's who we all are at our cores and our foundation. And I think that's why when we do put up walls and we disconnect with each other, that who we are, I think, as a person starts to change, because we're built and we're made with this almost web of love, and that's what connects each of us. And when we lose that, and we lose that connection, I think we get a little bit lost. And so love for me is that. It is the connection between each of us. It's kind of the fiber and the fabric of what we're made of. And that's what connects us all as people, and even beyond, with every living being on this planet. We're all love.
Yeah, that's really good. I've really, really enjoyed our discussion. Suzy, thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for opening up, sharing parts of your story. I know that you will inspire any people who listen to this. I am convinced that they will take something from it and be inspired by you and your story, and know that they can do anything. Anything is possible, like you said. So thank you, Suzy, so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Thank you, guys. I've had a great time. I appreciate you too. Yeah, it's been a great discussion, Suzy, and I really have been inspired. This is what I love. I love talking to people and getting to know people that I probably wouldn't otherwise talk to. And for me, it's just, this has been an amazing journey. And I really love that you're a part of us now, that you're a part of our, Sprinkle with Hope family, that
we're trying to spread that positivity as far reaching as we can get. And so thank you so much for helping and to share that and spread that positivity and love throughout the world.
Oh, thank you. It was my pleasure. And if we do this again next time, I'm going to bring my green screen and have the beach up there too.
Yeah.
We're all
Yeah,
mad.
for sure.
We'll all be somewhere tropical.
You got
Love
it.
it. Thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.